Hello, fellow sim racers. It is that time of year again, and by that I mean the release of another F1 game, F1 2021, released early for those who bought the deluxe edition, and it comes out tomorrow for those who bought the regular edition. And of course, everyone is going to want to know how to mod. So actually not a lot, if anything, has changed as far as modding goes in F1 2021 as opposed to F1 2020. If you want, you can go look at my videos from last year to kind of get a baseline. But I'm going to start you guys off with something easy today: how to change the badges in MyTeam with your own custom logo. Super easy, takes a couple minutes to do, and it kind of sets the baseline for how to modify any texture assets already in the game. Don't worry, the full livery video is coming very, very soon. I'm still working on that. I know that's the one that everyone wants, but this one will get you at least started and get you all the tools that you need in order to begin modding in F1 2021. So tools list, few things you're going to need. You're going to need a copy of Photoshop. This tutorial is Photoshop. Now, this can be done in GIMP. However, I am not as well versed in GIMP as I am in Photoshop. There are some slight nuances. For instance, how the texture plugin is handled in GIMP versus Photoshop. So those of you out there that are GIMP experts, perhaps you can go down in the comments and then give your input on how this process can be done in GIMP. But for purposes of this tutorial, this will be Photoshop. I am using the Adobe Creative Cloud version of Photoshop that I pay a monthly subscription for. However, any version of Photoshop will work for this tutorial. Also, you will need the Intel DDS texture format plugin for Photoshop. The link to that is in the description. You absolutely need this in order to export the textures to the correct format that the game will recognize. And lastly, you need a tool called Ego ERP Archiver. This is a tool that is needed in order to read the assets from the F1 2021 game. Be sure to go out and get the newest version because that has full support for F1 2021. The link to that is in the description. So let's go. So the first thing that you want to do is open Ego ERP Archiver. Just open the exe and you'll need to go to settings, game directory, and make sure that you set this to wherever your F1 2021 directory is. For most of us, it'll be under our Steam apps directory. After that, you're going to go to file, open, and to get to the badges, you'll need to get to, I'll go back to the root folder here. You'll need to go to 2021 asset groups, UI package, texture arrays, customization, custom badge large, emblem. And this will show you the ERPs for all of the emblems in the game. Now, we're going to use this back-to-back emblem. The reason being is it's the very first one in the list in the game of emblems that you can select. Now, you can change any of these. Also, a side note, this doesn't really apply to badges that much, but it will apply to pretty much any modding that you do for F1 2021. Whenever they update the game, at least this was the case with previous versions of the F1 games, it will overwrite any mods that you have made. So you will want to back these up somewhere after you make the change, or just take note of the changes that you've made so you can make them again. Now, I don't know how many messages I got last season saying, hey, the game updated and my mods disappeared. Well, that's why. Also, try not to modify any special liveries or badges or anything that is locked behind the podium pass or the unlockable, because those things actually change. I didn't know that last season, so what ended up happening was that the textures that I used in my tutorial videos ended up going away and being replaced during the podium pass update. So try and use the base ones that are in the game and don't change. So for this tutorial, we're going to use the back-to-back emblem. So you're going to open that, and if you click on this, you'll see the texture there. Make note of this here, because these are the settings that you'll need to save the texture as after you modify it. But first you need to export this out. So you're going to go up to the textures tab, go to export. Then you're going to want to export this somewhere. I have a folder created called F1 2020 modding. I suggest you do the same. And you see I already have it exported here, but I'll export it again. And there you go. Go ahead, you can keep this window open. Next, you'll need to open up Photoshop. And go ahead and open up the texture that you just exported. Make sure this stays unchecked because we need that alpha channel in the background, and there's our texture here. Okay, next you'll want to open your actual badge that you are going to replace this texture with. I actually have a Brabus badge that I always use for my Brabus Mercedes team. Then you'll want to select the logo, whatever method you want to use, copy it, come over here, you're going to select everything, delete it, and then paste the new logo in its place. Now once you've done that, all you have to do is select save as, and make sure your save as file type is an Intel TextureWorks. If you've installed the plugin correctly, you will have this as an option. There's also other DDS formats. Do not use those. They will not work correctly. You need to use the Intel TextureWorks format. You can rename this to whatever you want. I renamed it to Brabus DDS. Select save. This next step is very important. Texture type, you want to select color plus alpha because you need it to have the transparent layer in the back. And compression, you want to select VC7 8PP Fine sRGB DX11 Plus. You can leave everything else on its default. Select OK. And now in your modding folder, you should have the DDS texture that you just created. So now you need to open ERP Archiver back up again. Make sure you have the correct emblem selected that you want to replace. Select textures, import, select the DDS file that you just created, hit open, and look at that. It has replaced the old back-to-back logo. Then go to File, Save, and you need to save this as this name. You cannot save it under the name that you named the DDS file. You need to save it under this name. So if you've used a different ERP, then you need to save it under that ERP. So since we use back-to-back, that's the one we're going to save it as. So like save is going to say, hey, this is already here. Do you want to replace it? Yes. Yes, you do. And then that's it. Then you can close Photoshop and ERP Archiver. Then after that, open your game. And then open your game and go to MyTeam, and you should now see your logo there. But you'll notice that the colors are off. This is because it automatically tries to default to your team's colors, and if you recall, all of the logos by default are red and green. So to fix that, you must change the logo's colors to red and green. To do that, you simply want to go to corporate, go to customization, go to badges, go to emblems, and then you'll see your badge here. Select F2 to change the color, and you need to change both colors, one to green, one to red. To do that, just select the hue, whichever green you want. Make sure saturation is all the way to 240, and then luminance, I normally set that to 120 because that's exactly 1/2 of the color range. Do the same here, set the hue as red as possible, saturation to 240, and then luminance to 120. And as you see, the logo has changed to its normal color. You can play with this some till you get exactly how you want it, but this is good enough for purposes of this tutorial. You're going to accept that, and there is your logo, new and improved. And there you go. See how easy that was? should only take a few minutes for you guys to do this, and hopefully this leads you down the right path of modding in F1 2021. So if this video was helpful to you in any way, be sure to hit like and subscribe for more content. The next video will be on livery modding, so be on the lookout for that. You guys take care.